The land around Pompeii was as empty as Bartolo Longo's heart. It was the autumn of 1872, and the successful lawyer found himself walking a dusty, forgotten road, a place known only for bandits and despair. The wind whispered through the dry grass, carrying with it the ghosts of a city buried in ash. He had spent his youth chasing worldly ideas, even turning to spiritualism in his search for answers. But every path he took led him deeper into a dark wood of confusion and sadness. The success he achieved as a lawyer felt like a hollow prize, leaving his soul aching for a peace he could not find. Suddenly, a thought bloomed in his mind, as clear and strong as a church bell. If you seek salvation, spread the rosary. It wasn't a sound he heard with his ears, but a feeling that filled him completely. Without a second thought, Bartolo dropped to his knees in the dust. "I will not leave this place," he vowed to the sky, "until I have shared the comfort of the rosary with everyone here." True to his word, Bartolo started immediately. He sought out the poor farm workers in the fields, men and women whose hands were rough with work and whose faces were lined with worry. At first, they were suspicious of the well-dressed man from the city, but his kindness soon won them over. He knew they needed a picture to focus their prayers, a window to heaven. He traveled to Naples and searched through antique shops and dusty stalls. In a small, forgotten corner of one shop, he found it, an old, damaged painting of Mary and the Rosary. It was cracked, faded, and forgotten by the world, but to Bartolo it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The shopkeeper, seeing the state of the painting, gave it to him for a pittance. Bartolo had no grand carriage to carry his treasure home. He wrapped the canvas carefully and placed it on the back of a cart used for hauling manure, a humble throne for the Queen of Heaven on her journey back to Pompeii. He entrusted the painting to a restorer, an elderly monk whose patient hands were guided by faith. The monk worked slowly, carefully cleaning away the grime of years and mending the cracks in the old canvas, bringing the gentle face of the Madonna back to life. Once the restoration was complete, Bartolo carried the painting to the small, crumbling parish church that served the valley's poor. With great reverence, he hung the beautiful image on the wall, creating a small island of beauty and hope in the midst of decay. On February 13, 1876, he gathered his new friends, the farmers of the valley, before the image. Together, they formed a confraternity of the Holy Rosary. Their simple, heartfelt prayers rose like incense in the little church, a testament to a faith reborn in a forgotten land. As their hopeful prayers rose in Pompeii, a very different prayer was being whispered miles away in Naples. There, a 12-year-old girl named Clorinda Lucarelli lay desperately ill. For 2 long years, she had suffered from terrible seizures that left her weak and helpless. The city's best doctors had been called to her bedside. They had tried every remedy and every treatment they knew, but the illness only grew worse. Finally, with heavy hearts, they confessed to the family that there was nothing more they could do. All hope, it seemed, was lost. That evening, a kind noblewoman named Countess Mariana da Fusco, who was helping Bartolo, happened to visit Clorinda's home. She was collecting donations for the new church Bartolo dreamed of building in Pompeii. She entered the somber house, her heart aching for the family's pain. The Countess spoke gently to Clorinda's aunt, Anna Maria, telling her of the new work for the Virgin of the Rosary in the desolate valley of Pompeii. As Anna Maria listened, a tiny, desperate spark of hope ignited in her heart. She looked from the kind Countess to her suffering niece. She knew what she had to do. "Please, Blessed Mother," Anna Maria prayed with all her heart, kneeling by the bed. "Through your rosary in Pompeii, please heal my niece. If you do, I promise I will help build your church there, and I will tell everyone I meet about this miracle." With trembling hands, she gave the Countess a small donation for the cause. The moment the prayer left her lips, something incredible happened. In her bed, Clorinda stirred. The violent seizures stopped. Not slowly, but all at once. The color returned to her cheeks. She opened her eyes, clear and bright, and looked at her aunt. The illness that had held her prisoner for 2 years was simply gone. Anna Maria cried out with a joy so powerful it shook the room. The family rushed in, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. They hugged Clorinda, their tears of sorrow turning into tears of overwhelming gratitude. The quiet, sad room was suddenly filled with laughter and joyful praise. When the doctors returned the next day, they were speechless. They examined Clorinda, who was now sitting up, eating and talking happily. They checked their notes, they spoke amongst themselves, but they could find no medical explanation. It was a cure that defied all science. It was a miracle. Anna Maria was overjoyed, and she kept her promise. She went out into the streets and churches of Naples, her voice ringing with joy. "My niece is healed," she told everyone who would listen. "The Virgin of the Rosary of Pompeii performed a miracle. We must help build a church in that place so her love can be known by all." Word of the miracle in Naples traveled fast, finally reaching Bartolo in Pompeii in a letter. He read the account, his heart pounding. Clorinda was healed on the exact day, and at the very hour his confraternity had first gathered to pray. It was the sign he had been waiting for. He stood before the painting of the Madonna, no longer just a man with a desperate hope, but the steward of a miracle. His vow on that empty plain had been heard and answered in a way he could never have imagined. This was not the end of his journey, but the true beginning of a great work of faith and love. The news of Clorinda's healing was like a spark in a dry field. Anna Maria's joyful testimony, combined with the letters Bartolo sent, spread from the alleys of Naples to the grand houses of Italy. People were moved by the story of a forgotten valley, a humble painting, and a powerful prayer. Soon, letters began to arrive in Pompeii, not just with words of support, but with coins, banknotes, and promises of help. With the first wave of donations, Bartolo's dream began to take shape. On May 8, 1876, a crowd gathered on the dusty plain. It was no longer a place of despair, but a field of hope. With bishops and priests in attendance, and surrounded by the joyful faces of the local farmers, Bartolo Longo laid the first stone of the new church, a foundation built on a vow and cemented by a miracle. The building of the church was not the work of one man, but of many hearts united. Countess de Fusco tirelessly collected funds, inspiring the wealthy with her own devotion. Local men volunteered their strength, quarrying stone and mixing mortar. Women brought food and water, their prayers a constant song that blessed the work. Slowly, stone by stone, the walls of the new sanctuary began to rise from the desolate ground. As the walls grew higher, so did the fame of the Madonna of Pompeii. More stories began to circulate, of illnesses cured, of families reconciled, of prayers answered. People started to make their way to the valley, no longer seeing it as a place of bandits, but as a place of grace. They came as pilgrims, seeking hope before the miraculous painting. The desolate plain where Bartolo Longo had once knelt in despair was now transformed. The sound of hammers and prayer had replaced the lonely whisper of the wind. The lawyer who had lost his way had found his true calling, to build a home for a queen, a sanctuary for the lost, and a testament to the power of a simple rosary. His work in Pompeii had only just begun.